actually of the masters of the energy, not at the mercy of the energy. When you are at the mercy of the energy, then what you are most of the likely to do is keep feeding of the energy. Because you are at the mercy of the energy, it is like that you are what you'd be calling of the slaveness to their energy. So you just begin to keep feeding of the energy, and you keep feeding off the energy and feeding off the energy. And then what you are finding is that you are in much of the difficult state, and that the trigger has brought up something much of the bigness. But half of the bigness, if you are thinking of it this way, is what you have fed into the bigness.
Welcome to another episode of Galactic Guidance. And this week, once again, we have Marcus Bird. Hi, Marcus.
Hey, Eleni. Good to see you.
Always good to see you, who channels Ameed, who is a high-dimensional physical being from another planet. And I know that's a lot to hold.
Yes, it's
So you don't even need to hold it. You just
I'm just here.
listen to the message. That's all that needs to happen.
That's exactly right. So and the fun part is often, or most of the time, we're not sure where we go, what's going to appear. And I know you sometimes have questions and that sort of stuff, and most of the time you don't even get to ask the question, because it just sort of does its thing.
It just flows. And that's what I thought we would do today. So whenever you're ready to get into your trance state and start channeling Ameed. And so the way that Marcus channels is that he sort of steps out of the way from a conscious perspective, and he allows Ameed, who is his spirit mentor, to come on through and share the message that needs to be shared. It's a female energy. She sounds a little bit different to Marcus, and that's sometimes a little bit difficult to actually get accustomed to. But once you get accustomed to it, you can hear the message, and you can definitely feel the energy of the beautiful being that is Ameed.
Much of the joyness for listening of the sacred moment, Miss Eleni, much of the joyness for this of the connection.
Much of the joy for me too, Ameed. This has just come into my mind now in terms of a question to ask you. So given that it has been in my reality this last couple of weeks, I might ask you this question, which is, triggers have appeared in my energetic space the last couple of weeks, and it's interesting that they've come into my space. Can you give us some guidance about, from my perspective, it's just interesting to see where the gaps are in my evolution for me to still be triggered. It means there's a gap. Love to hear your perspective.
Very much on the what you'd be calling of the triggerness, and this is sometimes what you are being of the experiencing is the energetics, resonant fields, drawing your attention to a particular space in of the time that you are still holding on to of the energetic space. What you must be of the remembering is that everything is of the energetic quality. Everything is of resonant frequency states, and any time you have what you are calling here the trigger, these of the energetic resonant states are tapping into of your consciousness and drawing you into those energetic states that you are either of the wishing to restabilize, bring back into a harmonic resonant pattern, so that you can be of the expanding of your consciousness awareness. You would be referring to this as of the healing, as of dealing with of the old issues that you are experiencing in time and of the space. But in of the truth, this is just of an energetic nature, resonant field nature, and what you are tapping into or tuning into or being what you call of the triggered by is disharmonic resonant patterns. These disharmonic resonant patterns may or may not be of the true nature of the reality scape. They may not be of the realness in this of the moment, but you are being drawn to this of the attention to help you to be expanding, continuing of the expanding of your consciousness. Very much this is the purpose of the journeying that you and all of the beings in of this universe are traveling through, if you will. Not that there is a through or a to or a past, because this is not of the reality scape, but in your field of the reference point, you are traveling into more expanded awareness and of the expanded consciousness. Part of the expanded consciousness state is to be in a harmonic, stable nature of existence. Your what you might thinking of a natural state of being is to be in of the harmony. You are wishing to and desiring to always be in a harmonic state. And when you are releasing, when you are letting go, when you are not feeding energetic states, your natural space would be to be in of the harmonic state of existence. Within this harmonic state, you have the ability to then be of the expanding of your consciousness nature. This is much more of the true nature, what you might call of the authentic nature of your existence. You're deeper of the desire, not of the mental state, but of the soul state, is to be in of the harmonic nature of the reality scape, to be returning back to your or most of the authentic state of being, which is in harmony. So anything that is not in of the harmony will activate within you to be returned back to the harmonic state of existence. So these are aspects that you are calling of the triggerness, that bringing of your awareness, your consciousness awareness to an destabilized energetic state, is asking you for you to bring your attention to that space. One of the things that you must be of the cautionness is that you are not thinking that this needs to be of the repaired or of the fixed or any other nature than as of being of the harmonicness of the resonant pattern. Therefore, you just have to bring of the consciousness awareness to this state. You don't necessarily need to be in of the action or of the response or of the reaction to this state. You just need to allow the consciousness to return it back to a harmonic resonant state of being. The trigger is just of the attention. It's just of the energy bringing attention, the destabilized, disharmonic energy bringing of the attention to your awareness, so that you can then restabilize and reharmonize that particular space and time, utilizing consciousness technology, not necessarily having to be of the action state or having of the doingness, but just of the beingness, and allowing it to return itself back to its most harmonic state. One of the aspects of this is to allow disharmonic states to be returned back to a harmonic state. It is important that you be of the witness to this process. You are being thinking in your current consciousness state that you often need to be of the doingness, to be of the what you might calling of the repairness, of the fixingness, of the sometimes you even call this of the healingness. But we are here to share with you that there is nothing that you're being needing to do except bring of your awareness to the state and allow it to be of the returning back into a harmonic state of resonant field potential, back to a harmonic state of energy, so that you can continue to step most of the powerfulness into your authentic soul state of the existence.
So what I'm hearing is that, when we do get triggered, we think that we need to repair that if it's with another party, and start the process of healing and action, but we actually don't. All we need to do is be aware of it. And when we are aware of it, everything will just naturally return to the harmonic state that it's supposed to be in. Is that correct, Ameed?
This is much of the truthness, but you must be of the carefulness that you're not feeding this of the energy state. One of the aspects that can be of the happening is when you are triggered, you begin to then of the feed that state. So if you are being of the trigger because of other energy of the being, other persons, then what you can do then is feed of that state. When you feed of that state, you amplify the disharmonic resonant field of that state. When you are just being in of the witness, when you are just being in of the expanded consciousness state, that of the energy will begin to return back to a harmonic state of resonant frequency. So if you are not feeding it, if you are understanding what we are saying, that if you are not contributing, continuing to contribute to of that trigger, then its natural flow will be to return back to the natural resonant state of harmony.
Perfect. Perfect. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
This is much of a conversation that is being going in through peoples of the mind, every peoples that are watching and experiencing in this moment. This is much of the important aspect that you are stepping into an expanded consciousness state of mastery of the energy, not out of the mercy of the energy. And this is something that you must become now becoming aware of as you expand your consciousness, that you are actually much of the masters of the energetic state. And if you're being of the imagining that everything that is happening around of you, in you, and through you is of an energetic state nature, you can be thinking of it as a frequency or as a resonant field or as the energy of itself. But everything that is happening at an energetic of the level. You might be then experiencing this as like you are saying, Miss Eleni, as a trigger, or you might be experiencing it as a conversation, or you might be experiencing as someone else's of the action or your own of the action. But if you are to reduce this to its most of the fundamental state, this is just a resonant field or an energetic state. And you are actually of the masters of the energy, not at the mercy of the energy. When you are at the mercy of the energy, then what you are most of the likely to do is keep feeding of the energy. Because you are at the mercy of the energy, it is like that you are what you'd be calling of the slaveness to their energy. So you just begin to keep feeding of the energy, and you keep feeding off the energy and feeding off the energy. And then what you are finding is that you are in much of the difficult state, and that the trigger has brought up something much of the bigness. But half of the bigness, if you are thinking of it this way, is what you have fed into the bigness, that you are not actually feeding into of the truth, because when you are playing in of the timescape, you will not be able to understand of the truth. And when you are of the mercy of the energies, you are not sure what is of the truth, because the mercy of the energy means you are feeding into of the energy. So you are maybe taking other aspects of your existence, other experiences of your existence, other triggers of your existence, and you are putting them all into one of the trigger, and you are feeding this, and it is getting bigger and of the biggerness. Much better to be just the master of the energy, which means you are just bringing of your consciousness to this state. You are then bringing of the awareness to this state, but you are not having to do anything with this state except be in of the awareness. When you're in of the awareness, you will start to beginning to see of the truth. And sometimes even with the trigger, you will sit there after a little bit of the time, and you will be much of the smiling and even of the laughing, because you will be realizing that this is nothing other than an energetic state. When you start to begin to realize that this is nothing but of the energetic state, then you will see it start to return back to its natural state of harmonic resonance. It will only stay as a disharmonic resonant field if you keep on feeding the disharmonic nature of this, what you are being calling of the trigger. When you're just to be bringing of your awareness through of the consciousness to this state, and just be in the presence of this state, you will notice that eventually it will start to dissipate into a harmonic resonant field once again. This is the true nature of the universe. This is the dynamic of the nature of the universe, that it is always bringing itself back to a harmonic state of resonant frequency. Even when there is much of the destabilization or disruption in harmonic resonant frequency, in time it will find itself again in the harmonic resonant state. This must be of the truth, because otherwise the universe would be collapsing in on itself. and you are solar of the system, and even of your planetary nature would be of the crumbling and would be of the destroying. But this is not what is happening. Therefore, you will be understanding that if you allow in the witnessing, if you allow in the awareness, and if you allow in of the expanded consciousness, that you will see that every energetic state eventually be coming back to its harmonic resonance field nature. Even these of the triggers that you are speaking of.
Thank you so much, Ameed. Master or at mercy of energy, it is our choice, and that's how we master this game of life, by deciding and choosing to be the master of the energy. Thank you so much.
This is of the truthness. You are of the masters of the energy. Much love, much of the joyness.
Thank
Much
you.
love.
Thank you.
Hello.
Welcome back. How are you?
All right, I'm good. How are you?
Good, really, really good.
That's good. Was that helpful today?
Yeah, so Ameed basically confirmed what I already believed to be true, which is that when we get triggered, it's an opportunity to either be at the mercy of that trigger and that energy, or master it. So I've got a question for you, Marcus.
Yes, please.
A scenario.
Yes.
So somebody from your past,
Oh,
you haven't
yes.
seen for a long time,
Yes.
sends you an email and brings up old stuff that you basically have not seen or
Yeah.
been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Would you, so that you don't feed that energy, just
Yes.
completely ignore the email, or would you respond just out of, oh, this poor person is still thinking like this, like, how about this perspective? So
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think if we go based on what, Ameed has been sharing about this, and she shared privately with me bits and pieces, and I've, been sort of following the process she's been sharing with me to stop feeding energy and actually become the master as we are, of the energy. So not be at the tossing and turning of energy. And it's kind of interesting to watch how much we feed these things. It's really surprising. I was surprised how much I fed it. And it was really interesting because the next question I ask after I go, okay, so Ameed sort of said, just expand your consciousness, just be aware, don't do anything, just be aware of what's going on. And then you start to be aware of how much you're feeding it. And then what happens is you go through this, I've gone through this moment of, oh my God, what's true? I no longer know actually what's true, because I thought the trigger was true. And now that I'm sitting with it, it doesn't feel as true as what it was. So, oh my Lord. So you have this moment of not being sure what's real for a moment. And then you sort of settle into the more truth, which is, I've fed most of this. Like, this is 1% trigger and 99% me feeding it. So what you're experiencing, if someone happens to email you and they're bringing up old stuff, is they're feeding this thing. And so often what we'll then do is then we'll feed our version of it. Oh, how dare they? I mean, this ridiculous. How dare they be so silly? And we'd cleared this and I'm done with it all. But even they're saying that, you're feeding it. I'm done with it all. It's like, hang on, you're just feeding the energy. And so if there is a response to be given, and obviously you feel into, well, do I need to respond or not? If you do, the response, my thing would be to try and find the response from expanded consciousness, greater awareness that's not feeding it. Now, what often happens with people when you don't feed it is they get angrier for a bit, because they're hoping that you'll keep feeding it so that they can keep it going. But when the other party won't feed it, they get really anxious and sort of, agitated by that often. And you just keep not feeding it. And eventually it finds harmony again, because it has to. It has to find harmony. So the more you continue to be almost like that neutral state, of response, which would always, from a purely practical point of view, be very short and very to the point type of thing, not because the more words you use, the more opportunity is to grab hold of some of those and feed it. The sooner it will just start to dissipate. Because I think the funny thing is, it's almost like, what are you truly wanting from this conversation to the other person? It's like, what are you wanting? So at the end, if they continue, that's sort of the question. And that question opens them up to going, okay, I don't know, right? Because most often the end of that, which is, what are you truly wanting? The people go, they don't know. Because if they did, they'd have to admit, I just want to feed this because it's serving some purpose around making myself feel bad and berate myself, or try to get out of berating myself by making you the bad person. It wasn't me, it was you. So not taking responsibility. And so in the end, it's very hard for them to give you that response.
And I guess feeding comes in many forms. Like, just say you got an email from your past, from someone that you thought you were actually fine, and find out that you're not. I guess the first thing you would do is actually talk to your wife and say, I got this email. I'm guessing that's what you would do. So that's feeding it, right? Just that.
Totally. Totally. You then start to feed it, and you have to. It's quite interesting how much we feed these things. When you start to become aware of lots of different ones that you play out, you start to realize just how much we're feeding it. And most responses that you think is the right response or a good response is still feeding it. Like you said, the first thing you do is you go to your partner or someone, a confidant, and you go, look at this, right? But that look at this is most likely because you're going to someone who isn't impartial to the story, because they're on your side, that's likely to go, oh yeah, that's ridiculous. How dare they email after all this time, type of thing, right? Now it's off. Now the whole thing starts, because then you go, yeah, she's right. Oh my God, how dare they? And now we've just...
A perfect scenario would actually be to, okay, we get this email, we just do some prayers and realign to our center, and actually not mention it to anybody, and not respond, even though that feels harsh not to respond. So it's not responding from a perspective to prove my point, but like,
that could be the best response.
Is not to respond.
Yeah. I mean, if that person is in a state that really any response you give, they're going to turn it, manipulate it, change it, feed it, the best response is to just send, like you said, send a blessing, whatever. And you just do it from an expanded conscious state, and I think it's then appropriate to talk to someone about it once your response is done. Do you know what I mean? Like the response is done, it's finished, it's whatever. Hey, guess what I received the other day, and I just didn't respond, or I just responded with this, and it's sort of done. And then it's like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. So then it's information to a partner, which could be valid, right? Because you want to share things with your partner and not have secrets or whatever. But because you've already responded, you've already expanded, you've already done what you've done, you're not actually asking for a response from them. It's just information. So their response is usually then, oh, wow, that was interesting. Thanks for letting me know, or thanks for sharing.
And then if we want to keep that neutral position, if this is someone who's got eyes on you in terms of social media, are you better off, like, if you're actually blocking, is that a kind of energy as well? If you're blocking because you're like, actually, do you see what I'm saying? Or do you just leave things as they are from a neutral?
The best thing, because, we're talking sort of hypothetical, right? Because we don't know the exact email, if there was one or anything, right? So we're talking, so I think, again, Ameed's instructions always to sit with it, expand into your consciousness, bring absolute awareness to the situation from an energy perspective, not from a he said, she said, not from a here's sort of the specifics of what went down and blah, blah, but actually from the energy awareness, which is, okay, what's truly going on in this moment? And in that, you're not really necessarily assessing them. You're firstly becoming aware of your response to it, which could be like like I think your question was around trigger or whatever. It could trigger something. So then we're just bringing awareness to that, right? And we're allowing that to dissipate itself and come back into a harmonic state before we respond. Then you just feel into, okay, what sort of response does this require that doesn't feed the situation? Right? And again, if there is engagement and there's this sort of ongoing, then one of the questions you ask is, what do you really want? What are you looking for? What are you after? Right? And then you get to highlight the energy that's presenting, right? And you get to help them with their conscious expansion, right? So you're not really engaging in it. You're just, and chances are they'll come back with obvious practical stuff, and you keep responding with, but what are you truly looking for? Forget that you're looking for something quite practical. I want you to apologize, or I want you to give me this, or I want you to stop doing this, or whatever it might be. The thing you're sort of asking them is, but what's truly going on? Forget the, and that to some degree can help them to expand their consciousness, but also, and by doing that, they then diffuse it because they start to have a greater awareness about what's going on, possibly. Again, you have to
just let it go.
Yeah, that's right. And that could be the best response, that you don't respond, you just allow. But the thing to be really careful of then is the feeding that might happen after that, as in, I'm just going to let it go. But then there's this little niggling thought that starts to build in the back of your head, right? Which is, but what if? And maybe I should have. And, oh, God, I wish I had. Or do you know what I mean? And that's then feeding the energy. Now you're sort of being drawn into the energy. If you can actually, and I don't think, I think that's really difficult to not respond, and then not feed. That's a trick. That's a difficulty, because if you can not respond and just go, it's nothing. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm just really, the energy's not feeding it. So then be careful after that. You don't then start to feed it with those doubting thoughts or those other thoughts that come in about, oh, what if they email me again? And what if they say, because that's feeding the energy as well. So sometimes a response can help to not feed the energy, and sometimes not. So yeah, you've got to sort of feel into it.
Yeah. Every situation is different, and
it is
its own context.
Yeah,
but the main thing is not to get entangled in this kind of energetic web.
That's right, because then you're at a mercy to the energy. You're not at mastery of the energy, right? Because we can move any energy. We can move energy. We can change energy. We can do all sorts of amazing things. But if you flip into the mercy of the energy, then you have no control, or it feels like you have no control.
And that's what we're here to do, is master the energy. That's what
Totally.
we're here to do as energetic beings.
That's exactly what we're here to do. Well, part of what we're here to do in the expansion of our consciousness is to remember, to realize yet once again that we are these amazing sort of, master creator beings, return to having command of that.
Love it.
So, yeah, it's an interesting topic.
It is. And I think that this is something that's going to be happening for a lot of people.
Yeah.
These triggers, and not to get entangled, but to not feed the energy. And it's interesting that was the sentence that I said to myself this morning. No, I'm not going to do a further response. I already did one. I'm not going to do any more responses because I don't want to feed this energy. It's exactly what I said to myself.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. And I think you're right. If you have responded and done that, then that's it.
That's it.
Like, there's no point repeating yourself, because you're just feeding it then, right? You just go, the response is done. That's the response. And there's nothing more to say. It's done.
Nothing more to say.
No.
Exactly.
So well done.
Thank you, Marcus.
Easier said than done, but well done.
It's just I really feel that meditation is important in instances like this, to center yourself, to get back to the breath, to ask for help.
Yeah,
which is what I did.
Consciousness, expand beyond what's going on, beyond the trigger, beyond the whatever, and it's a good thing to practice with little things that play out.
Mhm.
I've been sort of doing this a bit intensely over the last, sort of 2 or 3 weeks since Ameed originally sort of shared this with me a few weeks back. And it's been fascinating to watch, like fascinating to watch just how much I feed these things. And yeah, I've actually been really surprised at how much we feed it,
Mm, love it.
and it's fantastic what happens when you stop, like really fantastic. And things shift really quickly. I even had that experience last night where I went into an energy and started feeding it. And then I had, just did this sort of thing that Armin did, was expand your consciousness, bring full awareness to it, and then stop feeding it. Like there's nothing else to do. Don't have to fix
Mm,
something. You don't have to
mhm.
repair it. You don't have to talk about it. Just stop feeding it first. First thing, stop feeding. And I stopped feeding it. And I have to say, going from being a bit of a grumpy bum is what I probably call myself at the time, a bit like, oh, not fair, to just coming back into love and harmony again. And it was like, it took, I don't know, 5 minutes, if that, to return. I went, wow, that was cool. you know, that was really cool how that can happen so quickly.
Yeah, and it's like anything, isn't it? Whatever you feed is going to grow.
Totally.
And it could be an addiction, it could be anything. But if you keep
Totally.
feeding and feeding and feeding, where's it going to go?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
good fun. Anyway,
All
hope that
right.
helps everybody.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Yay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Galactic Guidance. We hope that the messages that you receive from the higher realms have brought you clarity, insight, and comfort. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Remember to stay connected to your own inner guidance and trust the journey ahead.